Now, we only have about 15 minutes for Q&A, so I'm just going to go straight to the questions because we already have a few queuing in the chat box. I don't know if you and Arnav can actually see them, but some of them are in Indonesian anyway, so I will have to translate. Yeah. So let's just go one by one. Let's see how many we can take in this 15 minutes. So the first question comes from one of our colleagues here in Gajah Mada, Pak Nur Azid Mahardinata, and he's asking about your views regarding the potential ethical dilemma from philanthropic activities in global health. And here he is referring to the potentially conflicting values between public health and the profit orientation of the private sector. And so some even took it further, criticizing that corporate philanthropy is a public relation effort in order to be able to sway the public and divert from more serious issues, for example. So this is some quite serious allegation. So he's wondering, what is your take on that, on this ethical dilemma? So I don't know whether Arnav or Mara, who wants to go first to have a take on that. Arnav,
do you
can
want
you
to
hear
go
me?
first? Do you want to go first?
It's quite a heavy
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, no.
I
I
think
think
it's a heavy question actually, but Arnav, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more maybe Amara to address. We are a private philanthropy, so not a corporate foundation in that sense. And we believe that we as a foundation we partner with the private sector, with governments, with philanthropies, with civil society to have impact. So we are very, very partnership-oriented, partnership focused. Of course, when you need to do trials, etc., those trials, etc., need to happen across the world, and are even right now happening in the global north also. So we try to be catalytic in how we invest and not replace where the government needs to invest in their capital. Primarily because most of the government spend is actually happens for routine expenses, for salaries, etc. And there is no scope or there is a limited scope for innovation. So with the innovative capital that we can bring it, we try to move it towards causes and areas where the foundation can have an impact. And of course, the private sector has a clear role to play to address those market failures. So wherever there is a market failure, or from a government perspective, their expenses is more and more on the routine expenses side. How can we try to do more innovative and catalytic philanthropy is how the foundation invests. And we are different from Microsoft because that's a different entity altogether. The Gates Foundation is Bill's own, Bill and Melinda's private capital, along with Warren Buffett, who's also our trustee. So it's a private philanthropy versus a corporate philanthropy.
Yes,
Okay,
I mean, I agree with Arnav on the point around the private sector bringing in what it can do best, and it really can drive innovation and provide solution in a fast-paced, dynamic way. And I think bringing that type of mindset and those solutions to social issues is something that I believe the world needs. We've been trying to solve these challenges in terms of poverty, better education, gender equality, health, as Arnav put in his stats before. Health is getting the biggest chunk of charitable giving, billions and billions and billions of dollars being put through aid in different countries. We still have health challenges. Governments are putting a significant amount of their budgets within healthcare. We still have a lot of health challenges, and new challenges emerge. We think we solve some infectious diseases through vaccines or treatments, and then a rise in non-communicable diseases because of lifestyle emerges. So there's always a health challenge. If you didn't have private sector companies driven by profit, yes, that are putting a lot of resources into solving those challenges, we might take longer to solve those challenges. So I don't necessarily think there is an ethical dilemma, because if we can imagine that let's say that there is this dilemma, and then companies choose to do nothing, so that they are not perceived, because it's all about perception, they are not perceived to, let's say, cover up something, which is not. That this is not the purpose of why, for example, the global community impact exists, which is really driven by impacting the community and doesn't have any commercial interest whatsoever. So if we take that hypothetical scenario where companies do nothing in order to not give a wrong perception, then I think we would live in a worse world. So if we can use, and that's why I got into this area of corporate social responsibility, because as a child and as a teenager, that, oh, what if I could use private sector resources to solve global challenges? Wouldn't that be amazing? I don't have resources of my own. Going and convincing governments to do things seemed much more challenging at that time. And as I grew up, I realized it is to deploy private sector resources. So I also have quite a strong personal conviction about the private sector role in this.
Okay, thank you, Mara and Arna, for your take on that. Second question is actually in English, but I'll just read it out loud. So here it's from Arianti Rianom, and she's asking, would you kindly share more information about the Indonesian Health Fund? How was it channeled, via CSO or via government? If so, which ministries? Is it possible also to share the achievement reached by the fund since its launch in 2014? Thank you. I don't know who has information on that. Arnav, perhaps, Gates was involved in the launching, right, of Indonesian Health Fund.
Primarily, the fund was primarily launched by the Dr. Tahir Foundation. I think with an initial investment, I believe, of about $40 million with about 8 other Indonesian business leaders. And we were also involved along with the Global Fund, for fighting AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria. I think it's been probably the largest ever announcement from an emerging economy also to the Global Fund. And one of those examples, where both public and private sector, have come together to solve, some of the specific diseases, specifically around AIDS, TB, and malaria. I don't have the exact numbers on hand, but I believe that, I think the fund has treated about 1.3 million cases of tuberculosis. It has also been able to, give out about 9 million insecticide treated nets for, I think, malaria. I think the numbers in that range. And also about, I think, if I remember correctly, about 50,000 Indonesian individuals were able to access, HIV treatment. And also the fund itself has been able to strengthen the national TB program of the government. And like right, TB has been one of those diseases which have caused a lot of DALYs or mortality and morbidity. So it's contributed significantly to also reduction in the TB death. So it's an example of both, I would say government, public, private philanthropy and how the private capital has come in specifically, to come together to amplify the impact and specifically look at areas, which are usually underfunded. Then health shows up as one of those big because the data is so poor. So only a few organizations are reporting it. Otherwise, health doesn't get too much of that capital overall. So I would say this is one of those fine examples where, it is led by, by the local or by the domestic philanthropists themselves, and the 8 other Indonesian businessmen, along with Dr. Tahir, if I remember correctly, was Adrian Musanif. I think there was from the PT Intilland Development, if I remember, there was Ted Seong of the Seong Group. There was Portis Holdings. There was Benny from the PT Hansen. There was Anne Sotanto, and probably, if I remember, there was someone from the PT Modern and Reality. So it's an example of where public-private capital, along with the government, came in and specifically looking at tuberculosis, big area, AIDS and HIV and malaria, and try to address issues in that. And we're trying to replicate these examples otherwhere in other countries also for each of those specific areas. There is now also a India Health Fund which was established on similar lines, I think the Indonesian Health Fund has also served as an exemplar in that sense for us to look at.
Okay. Mara, I don't know if you have anything to add. Does Johnson & Johnson work with Indonesian Health Fund?
No, we don't specifically work. But in terms of our partnerships in Indonesia, they are with civil society organizations. But we have to recognize that those organizations work closely with health authorities. Without that partnership, very limited impact can be achieved in health. So, for example, one of the work that Project Hope does is in revitalizing the health posts like posyanduts. It wouldn't be possible to go and train community health workers looking at what the health facility needs without the blessing and the endorsement of the health authorities. So even if the programs are delivered by social service organizations, NGOs, and not-for-profit organizations, of course, the cooperation with health authorities is very important in all these programs.
Okay, thank you. So I'll move on to the third questions. It's $1 million question. It's coming from the field, from a health office, a district health office, and it's asking both of you as foundations, what does it take for you to say yes to somebody in the field asking for support or collaborations in the field?
Yeah.
Anything? You want to start first?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, for example, for us is alignment of objectives. That's number one. So, because our focus is the health worker, anyone that focuses on the health worker, that's the beginning of the conversation. So okay. That's one. Then it's after that is alignment of partnership. So basically, we are looking for programs that are large enough in scale, for example, so that are able to reach a more significant number of people, but then also programs that really or partners that really understand the problem and have developed, and we can together work to develop the best intervention that is also scientifically sound, because science-based is what Johnson & Johnson is. So then we look into how robust an intervention is. That's basically the three, is alignment of focus and the goals. Second is the partnership scale and the capacity of the organization to be able to partner, and the third is how robust is the program and the intervention. If the theory of change, the logic of it can lead to the impact that we want to have, if it's based on some form of evidence. And it doesn't have to be something that has been proven before, because we do catalytic and seed funding. So to prove that a certain theory or a certain intervention has legs and is able to scale, and if it fails, it fails. We're fine with that, but at least we know what doesn't work.
Okay, so alignment, scale, and robustness. Yeah? So those are the three keywords. Okay, thank you, Mara. Arnav, what would it take to work with the Gates Foundation?
I mean, I think it's very similar, so I don't have much to add. I'll just, what I'll add a little bit to that is only by saying that our work is also, is guided by the principle of partnerships. Like I mentioned before in one of my slides, we work with more than 1,000 partners, and that span across, from governments to other philanthropic foundations to the private sector and to the civil society. Because we don't, we are a grant making or an investment making organization, and our resources are very tiny, even when compared to the government's resources, because, governments and the private sector are already investing in the development priorities. So our objective is to provide strategic support to the government to get the best results. So, all the three which Mara said, alignment, trust, robustness, impact, scale, I think, would be the holy grail overall. But also, I think, sustainability is one of the other points we also do like to look at. And that's where the role of the government or the private sector becomes quite critical.
Okay,
I
thank you.
think I
Now
would
we
just
all,
add another thing
yes,
that
please.
reminds
Yeah.
we are also looking for a bit of innovation, something different. So,
Okay.
for example, within Indonesia actually is a focus country for our impact investment fund. So while we will continue with our philanthropic grant side, we also realize that within limited resources, the philanthropic giving has a certain role, but we can also work with other type of partnerships like social enterprises or enterprises that are driven for impact in health. And by providing a different type of financing there can stimulate innovation much more than a grant can. So we are actually deployed an impact investing fund starting in Indonesia for Asia Pacific. So if anyone is interested in that type of collaboration, please do reach out to us also.
Okay, thank you for that, Mara. Okay, we have only a few more minutes remaining, so I'm just going to close with a request to both of you. So many of the participants here are postgraduate students, and they're looking for thesis project, dissertation projects, and some of them are very interested in health philanthropy. Could you give them a hint of what would be interesting questions in health philanthropy, which you would like to see addressed by a research, by a small thesis? Anything? Who would like to
The
start?
one thing
Any
that
question?
comes into my
Yeah.
mind immediately, just on the task that I have at hand at the moment, is around the
Yes.
impact investing landscape and the role that startups, social enterprises, medium companies, grown in Indonesia or within Southeast Asia as a region play in terms of improving access and affordability of healthcare. It is a very nascent field, and I would love to see more young people looking into that entrepreneurial path with a purpose, and be able to really investigate what's the role and how is it that specific health challenges can be addressed through a more impact-driven enterprise by young people.
Okay, thank you, Mara. Arnav?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just, I think that's a good one from Mara. The other thing I'll add is, we are in COVID times, and this has actually, amplify the focus on healthcare and healthcare philanthropy uh, at this moment, which, there's huge to be done. As we've seen health systems across the world, whether it's in in the US or the UK or Italy, where the health systems are supposed to be much better than even the global South countries or the South and South Asians and Sub-Saharan Africa. Every healthcare system has failed. So I would, encourage everyone to look at what's, actually the healthcare system or the healthcare model, both from a purchasing perspective, that is the role of universal health coverage, the role of primary health care and all of this, and how the philanthropic money can be catalytic and innovative to not only just help strengthen primary healthcare, but trying to solve like what would it take for the health system to have impact at scale from a sustainable perspective, so that if something happens, God forbidden, again, our health systems are much better prepared to solve. So the question would be, what 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 is the health system, kind of if you look at the evaluation of the current health systems, what's the gap and what's the philanthropic capital, including government and private sector capital, that needs to go in to fill that gap, and looking at across, spectrum of diseases, but also one level above are at the universal healthcare coverage lens, because many of the countries across the world don't have a universal health coverage. So insurance for people can, one catastrophic shock, and we've seen also in COVID, one catastrophic shock of COVID has pulled people down into poverty. So how can we make sure that this doesn't happen again, and we are, as humans and mankind, are better prepared to solve for, and where philanthropic capital could actually help in that going forward.
Thank you, Arnav. So with that, we wrap up this first session. So thank you, Mara and Arnav, for sharing your insight and expertise. We've learned so much with the knowledge that you've given us this morning. I think many of the participants are better equipped to advance philanthropic for global health. And with that, thank you again. And please do stay if you still have the time. We still have another part about philanthropy in Indonesia. Okay, so thank you, Mara. Thank you, Arnav.
Thank you. Thank you, Yodi.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone. Thank you, Arnav.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Take
Thank
care.
you, Mahendradhata.
Bye.
I hope everyone stays safe. Take care. Thank you.
Take care. Stay safe. Okay.